All right, so everybody knows batch leads or batch. I want to use an example. 9019 Miller Road. This was a property that somebody brought from Texas. Of course you would do that. Why would, why wouldn't you log me off? Why am I not logging me off?
Maybe because I was here, or I have different. I'm on batch leads.
Yeah,
Do you want
but
me to like?
no, it's okay.
Okay, okay.
I just don't remember my password. Okay.
Oh, she just.
All right, so 9019 Miller Road. Is it road? Road.
Josh,
Yeah.
is it okay if we can use the one that we have on our
Oh yeah.
spreadsheet?
I'm not
Mm,
gonna just comp one property. We're gonna go through a few here. The reason why
Okay.
I'm picking this one is because I don't know this area. We actually Abby
mm,
and my team on my REI reply
mm,
pulled a lead from somebody who was trying to sell a property in Texas that was not trying to sell a property where we were marketing to, but they pulled this one in Texas. So the guy wants, I think Abby, what was it, 550,000 to 600,000, something like that.
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Let me see if I can pull it up. Yeah. Yeah. 590 to 600. Yes. The one in Texas.
Yeah.
Mm.
So originally, let me pull up the comps that Abby sent me, and I'm gonna pick on you here a little bit, Abby, just because you're the one who does my comps for me. So I want
Gotcha.
you to be able to like, see what you picked versus what you could pick. So, I do see a $860,000 one here. I see a $520,000 one here, 412, 530, and this one is active. So one thing you got to know is that when you see these little sold, um, this one says last sold price was 412, sold active.
Oh.
So the
Mm,
active, what happens is even though this is active for 839, with the system generating this number up here, it's going to generate off of the last sold price. So it's actually going off of this 522, not the active price of 839. So this number up here, this estimated value is not always going to be accurate because a lot of times you're factoring in other things that may not have sold yet, it might be
mm,
pending or active, that sort of thing.
mm,
I don't usually look at this. Now, one thing I will say is that there were some properties that appeared to be, I guess. Let me see if I can. So the ones that I put a question mark on are the ones that Abby picked. So we got um 860 here. Let's see, 521, 412, 522, 530. Um, those are the ones that Abby picked. Now they look like they are all, I would say, probably pretty close to, um, I guess, closer to the property than some of the other ones here. It looks like, if we're looking at the distance here, we got point 0.6, 0.36 is probably the closest. Um, so usually what I like to do is I like to start around a half a mile distance or a quarter mile distance. But it just so happens this is a very like rural place, and there are some things in the neighborhoods here. But this house is kind of, if you can see, is by itself. Like you got a neighborhood over here, you got a neighborhood over here, and there's some stuff over here, not really comps over here, but this house is kind of in almost in a neighborhood of its own. So um, I mean, the distance between here and here and here and here is not uh, they're not real close to each other, which is not the best thing ever because we want comps that are closer. But it's not the worst thing ever either because I can probably tell you with a lot of confidence that these neighborhoods probably are pretty comparable to this. I don't see any main roads here that are separating two. It looks like this here may be a main road. Um, and I might not count these over here. I might rather have like these in this area because they don't appear to be like really crossing a main road. So, but anyways, sometimes it's good if if we're really trying to figure out like, okay, what are the best comps to kind of give me an idea of what I'm looking at. I just picked out, so if you guys remember, most of Abby's comps were between 400 and 500. Um, this property was built in 2006, and a lot of the comps that I picked, these are the comps that I picked here, were built right around the same time frame. 2000, this is the oldest one, 1998. But 855, 616, 860, 744, 880, 781, a million, 650, 900,000. So there's a lot more positive comps than the ones that were picked out. So one thing is, there are some of these comps that are, 5 bedroom, might be a little bit bigger in square footage. This one's 4,100, this one's 3,900. They're not extremely bigger, but they are a little bit bigger. Then there is different factors that you have to take into account. But when you're making an offer, it's okay to just kind of like look at different factors on these. And I'm not saying that, you need to take too long, but you want to look at, okay, how close is it to the subject property? So these little arrows up here will allow you to sort by highest to lowest. So I can actually take this, say, okay, I want the ones that are furthest away, or I can sort it the other way, and I can say, okay, I want to see the ones that were the closest. So the closest two comps here, as we can see, this one is 0.29 miles away. This one is 0.31. Um, and these are both good comps. 855, 618. Let's see, square footage, 3489. This one is 3665. So it's only a little over 100, 150 square feet bigger than our subject property up here. And we all know this is the subject property, right? Um, and then this one is uh, only 10 square foot smaller. It was built a little newer, but it's still within 10 years. It's not extremely far off of that. And they have our subject property has one extra bathroom than these two do. So if I really had to pick like two really good comps to give me a good idea, like, okay, what could the way that I see it is that I'm gonna put myself in the mind of um, what will my buyer see? So if I'm wholesaling these properties, the one thing that I need to say to myself is, what will the buyer see? Um, and if I can give the buyer enough data that shows the buyer, hey, this is a great area to get X amount for the property. Let's say this guy is asking 550 to 600, and maybe the property needs just a tiny bit of work. And I can get this buyer to say, well, man, I could sell this property for 800,000. Then it might be a deal for them. And we might be able to make some money off of it. But if all my comps are around like 500, 520, 550, kind of makes it tough. Another tip that I'll say, and this is on a negotiation side of things, if we see that the numbers are really tight, what I will typically do, and I was talking to Derek about this earlier today, is I'll let them know, hey, look, these numbers are really tight for us. I'm not sure if I can make it work, but let's put a purchase agreement in place. Let's see if I can get approval. I'll submit it for approval. And if we can, great. If we can't, then we'll just go our separate ways. Because sometimes that's all people want is their set number. And if they don't get that number, they're fine with it. They don't even mind. Some of them don't even want to move out. So if they know that up front that hey, we're not like coming to you with, yeah, we'll buy it for this price and yeah, we'll move forward at this and da da da. If we're not completely confident in making that offer and having that attitude of, yeah, we'll buy it at X, we'll close in 30 days and all this other stuff, and we're honest with them about it, and we tell them, hey, look, we need to submit this for approval, and the numbers are really tight, doing the best I can here to get you what you're looking for. Typically, they will respect that as us trying to help them out versus maybe being false and us getting down the road at the end of the 30 days and saying, hey, sorry, I couldn't do anything with it. Have a nice one. So anyways, that was just a little tip as far as like my negotiations go when I get to that final pipeline when you guys send those deals my way. The numbers are really tight. Sometimes I'll make an offer anyway and see if we can move it. And if we can't, no big deal. Maybe I'm bringing in some new buyers or keeping my buyers engaged, that sort of thing. Um, I do like this comp here, but um, you know, there it's above a half a mile. I really like these comps better. The reason why I don't really like these comps is they're fairly smaller. They do have similar beds and baths. This one actually has 5 bed, 2 bath. This one is not too bad, but these are lower comps. So like it may be like if I was gonna show the seller these comps and say you know, hey, we're really trying to make this thing work, but let me send you the properties and what they're selling for so you can see what I'm looking at. Yeah, I might send them the 400,000 and 375, the lower end properties, the 300,000, so I can make them feel like, oh man, maybe my property isn't as worth as much as I thought it was. But being that I'm trying to make a deal work, I'm trying to see the bright side of things as well. I got to say, okay, do I think that this property could sell for 850, 950,000? Maybe not. Maybe not. But I definitely think that it probably could sell for well above 600,000 rather than somewhere in the range of like 500 to 550. Which is where the comps that we picked ended up being. So I hope that was a little bit of a good example, and we'll go through some more on different properties that you guys are dealing with right now, so that we can kind of hit a little closer to home. So go ahead and give me another one, and we'll do that next. Somebody either give me the address or put it in the chat or something. Anybody? Did I put everybody to sleep?
I
John.
have some question, Josh, and I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. For doing comps, since you have seen those figures for comparables, would it be necessary for us to look for the property as well if the construction of the property is similar to the one that we're trying to comp with?
What do you mean by looking for
Like
other?
for example, for the houses that has been built from vinyl, and the one that we're looking on comps with those figures are brick. So technically, the prices are gonna be different or much higher because it's made from brick.
Not very much high.
Not
Well,
very much.
I,
Okay.
I will forward that question over to Derek if Derek, if you're still here. Brick and vinyl
Yep.
does make a difference in price, but I don't think it is a big difference in price. What are your thoughts on that, Derek?
Well, it's like, so you want to get as close to like kind as possible. If you don't have 3 or 4 of the same type of house, then you're gonna have to use something that's slightly different. So the difference between brick and vinyl, if you don't have, let's say the subject property is vinyl, and you don't have 3 or 4 vinyl houses, then you're gonna have to use the brick. But as long as your square footage is around between 15% and your year built is like plus or minus 10 years, you're just gonna have to go with what you got. It makes sense?
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Derek.
So, and we'll get through some examples of that in the next when you give me some of your properties, because even though this is a more rural area, it's definitely nowhere near as close to rural as the area that you are working in right now, Judd. That area is a lot more spread out. So it's harder to find comps. So when you do that, you're going to have to start taking away some of these qualifiers in your search in order to pull up more comps in order to say, okay, what are we really looking at here? Because otherwise, if you've got, built within 10 years, square foot within 24%, located within a mile, but there's few and far comps in between, you might have to go out from a mile. You might have to go out a little bit from 20% square foot. You might have to go out a little bit on the years built, So let's work on one of the ones you guys got. Give me an address. Anybody?
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna look on on our spreadsheet. Okay, let's try this, the one for Calvin Hote.
Okay.
I've been looking for this for quite a while. 1115 Wise Street, Lynchburg.
Like that?
Let me see. I can't see it.
Is it too small? Can you make it bigger?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Judd.
Yep.
Did you start using that RPR that I sent you?
That was
Oh,
another reason
yeah,
for the
yeah.
meeting,
Thank you so much
Derek.
for bringing that up. I tried to use it the other day, and I'm actually having hard times, navigating that one. So I'm trying to search
Okay.
on YouTube on how to use it. So I'm still trying, but this is the one that I'm using currently.
So
Okay. All right. Cool.
a couple things here, like immediately looking at this, I don't like the fact that we have a comp that's 2 miles away, 2.5 miles away, over a mile away, and then there's just this one here that's a 6 bed, 4 bath, 2,800 square feet. Okay, so this is a big property too that we're comping from. Do you know how many bedrooms this one is, John? So immediately, I don't like the fact that it's that the comps are so spread out. I mean, again, this is a rural market, but I would rather take off my year built here and maybe give it a little bit more square footage, because here's the thing with these bigger properties, and I might even just ignore the square feet just to see what it brings up. But with these bigger properties, where it's 2,800 square foot, you might just have a bunch of smaller houses that sold nearby. So if I use ignore square footage, and then maybe I bring my located within a mile instead, bring that down to located within a mile instead, and then I hit filter, um, it's supposed to bring up a lot more comps, but it didn't. So okay, so these are also fairly high square footage. That's 130, 125. They're basically within a quarter of a mile. Now, if I'm still not getting any responses, now let me go up here first. So I don't know if you guys know this, but this set filter, nope, property class. Sometimes if you have, let's say, a commercial property or a duplex, see, so for example, this property I'm assuming is a duplex because and you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Judd, but that's why you're probably having a little bit more of a hard time finding comps because it's either a duplex or triplex or something along those lines. Do you know what it is, Judd?
Uh, I'm not actually sure.
Okay, well, I'll tell you a good way to figure it out is let's say we just copy this address, search in Google, and then go to Street View. Now, also sometimes Zillow will have information about it. You might even be able to see it in batch leads somewhere.
This one actually has
Number of
six
units,
bedrooms.
it's 3 units. So this is three 2 bedroom, 1 bath is what it is. So if I go to this Google map view and I look at the front of the property, a lot of times the front doors will tell you, but sometimes they won't. So I can see here there's one door that's boarded up here, one door that's boarded up here, and I'm gonna assume that there's probably another one on the side over here or in the back, in order for it to be 3 units. Or sometimes they make two out of one door where you walk in and then there's two separate doors there. I probably wouldn't expect that this is a triplex, but I'll tell you right now, the reason why Batch is having a hard time finding comps is because it's a triplex. It's a huge place and it's a triplex. You're not going to find but so many triplexes. So, if for example, I was to take this off and do another search, I almost guarantee you that we would find a lot more comps. Let's see. Yeah, 100 plus comps because I took that off. Now, mind you, that's ignoring all of this other stuff. So let's just say that we were comparing this to let's say we're comparing it to a single family home instead of a triplex. And here's the thing with the duplexes and triplexes, a lot of times because they're strictly for investors that are going to buy and hold, most of the times that's all that's it's going to be interested in it. A lot of times we'll have to, this is something you guys could learn, but a lot of times we'll have to figure out what is the market rent to figure out what they can make for market rent. And a quick and easy math for that would be that the investor wants over 1% return on what they paid for the property coming in monthly. So this is not a rule that works for everybody, but I know that a lot of investors are good with it. So let's say and I'll do this for example, um, I'll run this example past you guys. Let's say that they're gonna buy the property for 100,000. Let's say we get it for 75. Investor wants to buy it for 100, or buys it for 100, and then they have to put 50,000 into it. So they bought it for 100, they put 50,000 into it. Now they're at 150. So essentially, what they would want to know is that they are going to make at least $1,500 coming in monthly from all 3 units total, um, in order to make it profitable for them. Now, sometimes in these other markets, they want to be more towards 2%. So maybe somewhere, closer to $3,000 a month coming in. So, does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions on that math that I just did?
Yeah, that actually makes sense, Josh.
Okay, no question.
Yep.
Okay.
9.
So what I'm doing here is, let's say I'm putting, because I changed this to not, um, I'm basically changing it over to single family instead. Now I'm filtering with more filters. So just seeing what we end up with if I filter for more filters. And it came back down to three if I brought it down to single family, but they're all within a half mile. They're within 10 years built. They're within 20% square footage. So um, now you've got some comps here that look a little more promising. Well, hey, what if an investor was to come in here, gut the place out, and turn it into a single family home instead of a duplex or a triplex, and we've got 6 bedrooms, 3 baths, 2,800 square foot. And these are like 4 bed, 4 bed, 3 bath. These are, a lot lower. So, you could probably sell this thing for, I would imagine somewhere between, 200 and 450,000, maybe like, 275 to 350, something like that. If you were to turn it into a single family, and then I could kind of use that to estimate what my sale price might be if an investor was to come in and fix and flip it as a single family home. Um, am I way off on that, Derek? What are your thoughts?
Had to get to the mute button. I was out the car. But yeah, that you right on track.
Okay, so because a lot of investors who are looking at this as a triplex are going to be probably looking at it for cash flow, these comps are not going to be as pertinent. So, but I could come in here and I could say, okay, instead of just this multifamily dwelling, because that's what it's listed as, that's what the comps are coming up as. I can also select duplex, triplex, quadplex just to see if there's any other that were sold here recently. Um, and maybe I bring out the years built a little bit, bring out the square footage a little bit. I'm still within half a mile. I could go up to 3/4 of a mile, but now I'm just strictly looking for duplexes, triplexes, quads, that sort of thing. So a lot more properties pop up, and we've got a lot more to compare it to. And I may nope, none of these actually have pictures, but if you do see pictures here, you can actually click on those and look at some pictures of the property. Um, looks like these don't have much. So let's say now that I feel like, okay, well, I got a lot more properties than I really need, I could sit here and pick the best ones of these ones that I see. Um, but I could also narrow it down a little bit. So let's say if I come back here and I say, okay, well, let's just do within 20% square feet. So it looks like a lot of these are similar in square footage. Um, it's tough to tell if there's duplexes, triplexes, or what without looking at them. But I would assume that, if they have 2 bedrooms, they're likely only 2 units. If they have 3 bedrooms, it might be a triplex. But if I go now that I've got all of these properties are within 3/4 of a mile. Now I can pick my favorites, the ones that I think will give me like a pretty legitimate ARV. So uh, if I sort by distance here, these first ones up to about here, actually pretty much the first page are right around under a half mile. So now if I say, okay, let me see what these ones that are pricier look like in terms of square footage. Those are all pretty comparable. That one's lower. This one's a little higher. Maybe I take that one out of there. Is this our 450? Yeah, it's a 450. So now I'm looking at, let's see, I've got one, two, three. These two are a little over a half a mile, but if I'm counting those, these are all ones that have more than one door that are, let's say, duplexes, triplexes, or quads that are in the range of 200 to 280,000, which I think I said if you sold it as a single family could probably go for about 300 to 350. Um, I feel now that I see this and see the duplexes, triplexes, and quads that have sold for in the range of 200 to 280, I feel I was probably pretty right on the money with that. So, now looking at these, my estimated value is somewhere in the range of 250,000. Whereas before, with what we were looking at before, without changing some of these filters here, we ended up with a ARV of what, like $120,000 or something like that. Is everybody seeing the value and kind of being able to play with these filters here and find what you're looking for, or get a better idea of, what the sale price of the property should be? Is it making sense? And I'm like
Yeah,
getting
and
crickets over here.
also I wanted to add in there too that if it gets worst case scenario and you can't find anything, then instead of looking back 30 to 60 days, I mean 30 to 90 days, go back, maybe even you might even have to go back a year in the sales transactions to see what's happened a year ago,
Yeah,
right?
so see, I start at 12 months. I start at 12 months, and see, so now I have, here's the thing. If I'm going to go and advertise this to buyers, I'm going to want this to look as promising as possible. So even if I go advertise this to buyers, I might even take out this 199, and I might leave the 215, might even take that one out too and just show the 230, 279, 260. But if you really want to get more, I guess, exact with everything, you can come up here now that I've got an idea of like, okay, I've got 5 properties here that I really like. Even if you wanted to kind of save what you had, you can export to PDF here and then go back up here and say, okay, let me change this to sold in the last 6 months. Now I filter it out. Let's see which ones were sold in the last 6 months that I picked. Well, all 4 of these were sold in the last 6 months. The only one that wasn't was the 260,000. Well, these got a little disorganized. So, okay. Yeah, just the one that was 260,000. So, okay, well, let me bring this down a little bit further. Let's see which ones were sold in the last 3 months. Boom. Now, okay, this one was the only one sold in the last 3 months, 215. But in the same sense, we're not looking at a single family home here. We're looking at a triplex. So you're not going to have as many duplex, triplex, quad sales as you are single family homes. So it's tougher to find ones that were sold within the last 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever, because uh, a lot of times what happens is these investors hold on to these properties. I mean, look, even though this thing, well, it's boarded up on Google, and I can't see with my menu controls. This was captured in 2015. So did he tell you if it was livable, rented? Did he tell you the condition of it, Judd?
Hold on, let me check. Um, well, he's actually trying to sell the property, or the selling price is 50,000.
That's
Or
amazing.
this also probably
Even if it's full
probably
gutted,
buys
as
out.
long as it doesn't have, let's say, like, if it doesn't have fire damage or structural damage, I think that's a great price. I think that's a
Yeah, I
phenomenal price.
actually think so.
Now, if you look at batch up here, what they think the estimated value is, they say it's 55,000. I completely disagree with that. And if anybody tries to tell me otherwise, I will show the numbers to them, Like I don't, and if you really, like, if we really want to get more in detail about these properties, the comps that we found, we can look up those properties, and that's maybe something a little bit more along the lines of what Derek and I do when we get down to final negotiations, because like he said, you want to compare as close as possible. So for example, even though these, I may have to go back out to 12 months here to look at those five, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, 1620 Gray Street. So I'll just Google that. 1620 Grace Street, Lynchburg. So what I'm hoping for here is I'm hoping to try and find some pictures, some more info about the house. So these pictures are probably going to tell me what condition the house was in when it sold. So is this house completely renovated? No, it's got a lot of older stuff to it. It looks nice. The floor is nice. Doesn't look brand new. It looks like they kind of just did a, hey, let's throw some paint on it, keep the classic feel, do a little bit of fixing up. They did the kitchen, put some new cabinets, some new granite. There is some really nice features of it. They did new flooring in the kitchen. Yeah, they renovated it. Now I can go back and say, okay, well, is this a duplex, triplex, or quad? So, what I'll do is I'll come down here in the notes and it'll say it's a wonderful example of Victorian home, downtown Lynchburg. It's also a perfect example of old meats with uh, all new classic elements of a grand historical home with modern upgrades. Grand Northern Home. Whether it be for growing a family or a large family, the home offers 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. 4 bedrooms are large and spacious. The beautiful home has a large living and dining room that is an eight that is connected by an impressive pocket doors. Blah blah blah. So this is a single family. Now it could have been at some point in time a multifamily home. It's around the same square footage. So, this may not be a great example. So now I know, like when I'm looking at my comps, that might not be the best one. So if I go back again and I go to 501 Washington Street, which actually, if you click on these, it'll open a new window in Batch that will show you the property that you're looking for. And then if I want, I can search Google and see if I can find. So this right here, whenever you see MLS, that's typically going to show you the listing. So this is the one that's over 280. It looks like they kept the original wood floors. I can't really tell. It doesn't look like they really refinished it. Did some paint, maybe did a little bit of upgrades to the lighting. I mean, this is nothing spectacular here. They did a good job in the kitchen. Um, they may have even kept the old cabinets and just put new hardware on it. Look at the bathroom. This sold for 280,000. The bathroom's not even completely renovated. So I look at little things like that. But again, going back down to our description here, and I'm getting real in depth here. Like I'm not saying that you guys need to get real in depth, but I'm just saying that the potential is here for this home to be worth way, way, way more than $100,000, which is what Batch said it was worth. I don't think that's right. I think that the home is worth a lot more. Um, so let's see. It says here type single family residence. So this is a single family. Now maybe it was a duplex before. Maybe Batch is still picking up on single family stuff. Because I still have single family selected. So that's what I did. I have single family selected. I was not looking up duplexes. So I apologize. I made that mistake. So these are triplexes and quads and duplexes, and yeah, these are a lot lower. These numbers are a lot lower, but Um, the years, it seems like all of these properties were built around 1900s. Do I have it selected, built within 20 years? Yeah, okay. So, these are similar square footage, but, these are all properties that are duplexes, triplexes, or quads, not the single families. But in the same sense, like you could also turn this house back into a single family house instead of having, you know, three different units if the investor wanted to do that. But so going back to the formula of what the market rent there is, I'm gonna just look this up. So this says 6 bedrooms, 4 baths. You can clearly see this is, I guess, a duplex. Let's see if we go down here to type, it just says multifamily. Let's see. 3 bedroom, 1.5 side by side duplex. So this is a duplex. Um, we can see it's in decent shape. It's not in horrible shape. Probably still needs some work. Looks like one side is vacant, doesn't have a kitchen. Definitely needs some work. It is set, it's brick on the front, but the side is siding. So this is a duplex. It's probably not going to be worth as much as a triplex, but it's also definitely not like renovated, like great renovated condition. Needed some work, and looks like maybe it has new windows. The siding doesn't look too old. The HVAC looked a little bit newer, but they only showed one HVAC unit. The other side may not have one. But anyways, this is the way that we look at things and kind of break it down even further than we were before. Now, if you were to turn it to a single family home, would it be likely that you could get around 250,000 for it? Yeah. If you were to keep it as a triplex, if it's a triplex and you were to keep it as a triplex, what would the value really be to somebody? Well, the value comes down to um, how much are they going to be able to bring in monthly. So I usually will rely on Zillow to tell me what the rents are in the area, and this is kind of the way that I do it if it's a duplex or a triplex. Now this is I'm getting real detailed here because I can't really give you every particular scenario, but usually what happens is there'll be like a rent estimate at the top of Zillow for a single family home that'll tell you round about what its value, what the market rent in that area is. I like Zillow's rent. I don't like Zillow's Zestimate for pricing, but I like Zillow's rent Zestimate a lot. So what I'll do is I'll get a general idea of this area. So I clicked on the little map here in the pictures, or if it's not there, sometimes it's over here. But I clicked on the map, I get a general idea like, okay, where is the house at? Then I'm going to get out of this and close this out. Then I'm going to look, I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to say, okay, this is kind of like my area for the rents that I'm trying to look at. So I'm going to click over where it says sold and I'm going to go to for rent. And it looks like there's not a lot of properties for rent here. But let's see, this is $1,100, 2 bedroom, 1 bath apartment that's fully renovated, decked out, looks good. And then thought that was near the water because it showed a picture of the water or something, but it's not. And then you got another 2 bedroom, 1 bath here, which is from a house that looks like it's just kind of like patched together. Um, not the greatest look. Looks okay. It looks livable. Looks kind of small. Let's see, 600 square feet. It's extremely small. I don't even know how you fit two bedrooms in there. But anyways, I say that to say like, okay, now I've got an idea of like, okay, this is a really nice, completely renovated, somewhere around 1,000 for a two bedroom, and then this is just kind of like a chopped together, really small. It's livable, but doesn't look all that great. 600. So if I said, they could probably get somewhere around like 800 uh for each unit, then that would be I think that that would be fairly accurate. 900. I think that that's reasonable, even if they just do a pretty decent renovation job. Now, Derek, you agree with that or disagree? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really liking this property.
So here's the thing. Let's just say we've got 3 units, and let's just say we're estimating $850 a month. I see another one over here, 825. Um, that's geez, 1,400 for a one bedroom, 975. So these two bedrooms apartments around here are all round about, I would say, between 850, 950. Some of them that are smaller might be a little lower in price, but I'm gonna just guess. I'm gonna throw this out there that we can probably get around $850 per unit. So we got 3 units. Now going back to my math here, and I gotta pull my meeting controls back up. Um, oh, I forgot I could annotate. So let's say well, let me just do it in the chat, I guess. So let's say 3 units at 850 each equals. Are you guys able to see everything okay? Is everything showing up okay?
Yeah, I think everything is okay.
Okay.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's sometimes a little slow though.
Yes, that's right. That's what I thought too.
All right. So you probably can't see my calculator, but I'm just multiplying 850 times 3. Um, so that equals 2550. So $2,550 a month coming in. Let's just say that the investor has to pay for some utilities. Maybe they got to pay the water bill or whatever. So if we took, and let's say an extra $200 or $300 out of that, and we ended up somewhere around 2,200 a month. Now, if we do our calculations, that investor, in order to meet their criteria between 1 and 2%, which we could even say 1.5%, then let's say we do, how do I do that backwards? Now I'm drawing a blank. So 1% of, or 2,200 would be 1% of 220,000. 2,200 would be 2% of 110,000. Does everybody know how to do that math? I can think things through in my head better than I can explain them when it comes to math. So if anybody
Wow.
has questions about that, then let me know. But essentially, 1% of something is like 10% minus a zero. So if 220,000 is 3 zeros at the end, and I'm moving those 2 zeros back, then I got $2,200. So 1% of 220,000 is 2,200. So if they put $220,000 into the property, that would be they would be getting back 1% in rent every month. Now, if we get it under contract at 50,000, we wholesale it to them, let's say for 75,000, they put 100,000 into it, and 1% would be 110,000, or sorry, 2% return on their investment would be 110,000. 1% would be 220,000. About halfway between is about like 160,000. So they're a little bit under 1.5% return on their investment. That's pretty good. And that's with them putting 100 grand into it. Now they don't have, we already know that this $850 a month rent, that's on the low end. That really is on the low end if they just kind of like do minimum work, make it look nice, make it good and livable, but also make it look nice. I don't think you might not have to do 100 grand worth of work. I'm not sure the condition. Judd didn't really give me the condition, but you know, 100 grand, you might be able to. An investor comes in there, fixes it up himself. He might be able to do it for 60. He might be able to do it for 80. I don't know. But I think the numbers really work. If we were to wholesale this thing somewhere around 75,000, that's my personal take on it. As long as it doesn't have A, fire damage, B, structural damage, if it's not like a completely gutted property where there's no walls, no nothing, and you have to go in and put everything, um, I I think that it's a great deal. I think that an investor can make a great amount of money on it. And even as a fix and flip, if we did the math as a fix and flip, let me do this. Let's share my whole screen. So even if we're doing the math as a fix and flip here, let's just say that the fix and flip is going to cost 120 grand. You're going to turn this thing into a magnificent, um, a magnificent single family home, and the property is going to sell for 250 grand. So 250, let's say by 75%, minus, let's say, what I say, 120 grand. That still is 67.5. So the at that 250,000, the numbers might be tight for a fix and flip, turning into a single family and everything else. You putting 120 grand into it. But hey, does that still leave room from what that now, mind you, the seller is asking 50,000. That doesn't mean that that's the lowest that he'll take. That's just his asking price, right? Or did you already negotiate him down to that, John? Come on, guys, need some interaction here. Wake me up. Keep me going. Am I talking too much? Putting
That's
everybody
right.
to sleep?
That's right, Josh.
Okay.
Well,
Uh, so essentially, if we're at 50, the seller is asking 50. That means he probably still has some wiggle room from that 50. If we sold it for somewhere around 70, that still leaves a good profit for us. And it still leaves profit for an investor to make money if they're doing a renovation as a single family, and also if they're going to keep it and renovate it as a triplex. So there's plenty of room for them to make money either way.
So Judd, what is the where are we at with this particular file?
Actually, I'm looking on this property actually, and I'm planning to offer the, I guess I have forwarded this one to you.
Yeah, I do remember seeing it, but you didn't move it over to stage 3. So I guess Josh, I think the next step on this particular one is to schedule
Visit, I guess, so you
yeah,
can
we go look.
evaluate. Yeah.
Yeah, we probably want to schedule a we go look to check this one out.
Yeah, I'll send you the details. Or you want
So,
me to
so
forward? You want me to forward this one to your pipeline?
Yeah, you can move this one to the pipeline.
Okay, sure.
yeah, I will put it in a hot lead pipeline. So anyways, let's can we do, because I know Derek needs to get to sleep. I would do this stuff for hours on end, but I know that we kind of gotta like learn as much as we can in a short period of time. So this one, because it was very particular type of property, it was a triplex. It took a little bit more digging. Most of these properties are going to be single family homes. But if you can use these formulas, if you guys need me to send you the formulas, I can. But if you can use the formulas to try and figure out whether or not an investor would buy it and where they kind of would need to be on it, it helps determine if you're in the right range. You know, if it's a duplex, triplex, you really kind of got to look at rents, what the rent return would be, and what percentage of the purchase price after the rehab would end up being. And honestly, the best way to really determine what the rehab is to ask those qualifying questions. You have to ask, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being HGTV status, 1 being tear it down and build new, where would you say it would fall? A 5. Okay, 5, great. What kind of repairs do you think it really needs? Then they might go through the list. Obviously, you need to listen and take notes. Okay, as you're going through the list, maybe even repeating back to them, needs a new HVAC, needs a new roof. Okay, needs new paint, needs cabinets, needs a kitchen in this, whatever. Then after that, you look at your other questions, which are how old is the roof? How old are the windows? When's the last time the electrical or plumbing systems were updated? When's the last time the kitchen and baths were updated? If they already answered those questions previously, you obviously don't answer those questions or ask those questions again, but you want to get as many details about that condition as you can, because I can almost tell you by looking at the square footage, by looking at the details of the condition from answering those questions, round about how much that rehab is going to cost off the top. And Derek can too, because you kind of know how much most of these things cost. Now if you've got a big, huge 4,000 square foot house, it's gonna be totally different than if you've got a 1,300, 1,500 standard square footage house. But essentially getting those details about the condition and digging further into the condition of the property will help us determine if the formulas work, and how much work an investor would have to put in to either fix and flip or to buy and hold it. So I want to do at least one more, and I'd like to do a single family. Do you have a single family that we can run comps on?
Yes, I put on chat, Josh.
Hey, I'm gonna be here, Josh. I'm gonna be on mute for a minute.
This Christine Court.
Yeah.
Okay, so um, I was just thrown off a little bit because it looks like this is maybe like an apartment building, not a house, but maybe it's a townhouse.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of a townhouse. You said that the monthly rent for this is 220 grand.
the monthly rent,
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense. $220,000 a month.
No, 2,200.
Oh, $2,200 a month.
2,200. Yeah,
Okay, so
2,200.
hey, without even looking at comps, without even going any further than that, there's already a tenant in place. It's already rented. The next question that I'm going to have is, does it meet my formula? So if an investor is going to want to be somewhere around 1 to 2% of the purchase price or more per month, then I can confidently say at a rent of $2,200 a month, because we just did that math, at a rent of $2,200 a month, an investor is probably going to want to pay no more than $220,000 for the property, um, or less. So if they're okay with buying at 1%, then they probably would end up being okay with purchasing a property with a tenant in place at $2,200 a month. If they're paying after what the owner wants and our fee for us, they wouldn't want to be any more than 220,000. Now they might be able to do that. They would be happy with less, and if we could get the seller to take less for the property, that's great. But if the seller wants more for the property, my next question is going to be, okay, how long is the tenant's lease for? When is the lease up?
He actually said that the tenants rented this property in advance from 2023 to 2024. So the contract will end by the next 2 years.
Okay, well, Derek, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say if the seller is asking more than 200,000, I think that this is probably not something that we can move forward on.
Yeah, he's actually he's asking prices 315,000.
Yeah, so but
Yeah, he
let's
doesn't want to sell it.
yeah, he's happy getting his rent every month. These people are locked in for 2 more years. But we can look at the comps, and I can tell you right now what my thoughts are. Instead of a mile, I'm gonna bring this down to a quarter, half a mile, and let's see what comes up. There's only two here and a half a mile. This is actually great, and I'm gonna tell you why these comps are great because they're in the same complex. See, if you look here, zoom out a little bit. Subject property is here. These are all townhouses. Do we all see this? Everybody can see it?
Yes, Josh.
These
Yep.
are all
Yeah.
townhouses, and this is in the same complex. So 270, this one sold for 270, this one sold for 290. Is it worth 300? Maybe on the MLS. Maybe if he sells it on the market, this might be a good one to put on the market once the tenants are out. Right now, with the tenants in there, it's not going to be a smart investment for an investor at 300,000. Now, would I own or finance it? Probably not with a tenant in place. Not unless I can get my payments lower than 2,200 and I don't have to put much down up front. But why would he take that if he's already getting $2,200 a month every month anyway? He doesn't really want to sell it, just like Derek said. He's throwing out a price that, hey, if you want to give me a good enough price that makes me want to sell my property, I'll sell it. Otherwise, I'm happy where I am, you know. That doesn't always mean that we can't make those situations work when somebody has that mentality, because sometimes we can't. Like for example, Philip with the duplex, um, Philip is okay with selling his property around a certain price, but he's also okay with holding on to it. Uh, but the price that he gave us was, in my opinion, a good price. So I think that they're still, even though he's not extremely motivated, he's also reasonable and he's not asking for full market value to the point where he's like, look, I don't really want to sell it. He wants to sell it. He's okay with selling it, but he's also okay with keeping it. That's okay as long as he's willing to be reasonable with the price. So let's go for another one here. Now that we can kind of see, okay, this is a townhouse. These are all particular. These are all probably the same build townhouses. So these comps are pretty good. He's asking for right around, if not a little bit more than market value. Um, it is the same square footage, same beds and baths, same build, just like I said. So these ones sold April this year, and this one sold October 20th for 270. So you can see this one sold for more back in April. This one sold for less than October, which maybe it was in less, good condition. But, you can get an idea of, this is kind of around what houses over there are selling for. If he's not willing to take a steep discount, if you want to make an offer to him, let him know, hey, listen, we would probably need to be closer to 200,000 to make it work for us. I don't think that it's gonna, that we're gonna be a good fit for you, but we do know agents in the area. Would you be interested in listing the property for sale? If he says no, okay, fine. Would it be okay if we followed up with you in 6 months or a year, whatever the case might be? And he might say, yeah, you put him on a 6 month follow up. Fine. Or you just, kind of toss the lead to a realtor, let them know they probably won't want to sell until 2023, end of 23, early 24 or whatever, and maybe by then the realtor can come in, swoop in, and get a listing out of the deal, and take care of us or something. So, can you give me another single family that we can comp real quick?
Yeah, that's on the chat.
Is that uh, all right, 3 bedroom, 1 bath. This is good. 1,600 square feet. This is standard single family property. That looks a lot bigger than 1,600 square feet, but maybe not. Okay, so I'm looking at this is saying located within 5 miles. I don't like that, but let's see here. Let's just check my property type. Okay, single family, residential, those are good. Maybe I increase the square footage to 30, and maybe I ignore the year built, just to see if I can pull up, because right now we have no comps. So let's filter this. Now we've got a bunch of stuff under 2 miles. So let's try, that brought up 100 comps. So the within 10 years, year built, that probably is what's killing us here. This was built in 1908. I'm guessing there's not a lot of old houses like this. So let's narrow this down to within a half a mile now, because I'd rather time travel than travel by distance. So I'd rather be closer to the subject property than I would be either further away in years that it was built, or further away in months that it was sold. So I'd rather do that than travel out further from the subject property. So I went down to a half a mile. Let's filter it and see what we get. Now we got 28 comps in under half a mile. Let's see if we go down to, let's bring this square footage down to 20%, filter that. Okay, so these, although these aren't all older, they're not all like super old houses. Some are 85, 97. So let's say we change this year built. We'll do we still got 13 comps, which is good, but um we can't go any more than 30 years. So let's leave this here for now. And let's do this. Let's sort by our distance. And now we've got, let's see. Now, mind you, I'm picking out the good ones here, 285, just because I'm hoping that these kind of fit the build. 460, that's 6 bedroom, 2 bath. These are bigger square footage. I'll probably take those off because it's a 6 bed, 2 bath, and we've got a 3 bed, 1 bath. This is a 3-2. This is a 3-2. Yeah, it doesn't have that second bathroom, but you've got the same amount of space as these. You could add another bathroom and add that value. So let's just say we're going with these right now. And this is only within, let's see, it's 0.4 and under. These are good. So 1950, 1940. This one is 97 and this one is 2017. I might take these two off from the year bill. And granted, here's the thing, and I don't know if you know this, Derek, but what happens is a lot of times when people will go in and completely gut renovate a house, even though it was built, let's say it was built in the 40s or 50s, because they did a gut renovation and they did more than a certain percentage of the house, they will count it as a complete upgrade and they will call it built in 2017, even though it was just renovated in 2017. So sometimes I will, and I'm not saying that Judd, you or Abby need to do this, but if I want to get particular about the comps and I see, okay, that's weird. These are all 1940, 1950, 1960, and we got 97 and 2017. I might go look at the house to see, okay, is this property new? So let's say, for instance, 204 Park Street. Was that Lynchburg or Roanoke? Christiansburg. So if I look at this house, I can pretty much tell by looking at it that this is a new build. I mean, it doesn't look like an old house that somebody renovated. I can see that this all looks fairly new to me. Everything on this looks new. The foundation looks new. This doesn't look old at all. So I would say that this is probably not an accurate comp. Go ahead and count that one out. This one here, 640 Forest Street. And you guys see that this is not, I mean, I'm granted we've done a lot of explaining, but this is not like it's not a real difficult task where this is taking me a long amount of time is what I'm getting at. So yeah, this looks like a house that was built in 97. It doesn't look like an extremely old house. If you can tell here, the brick looks fairly new. The roof still looks fairly new. It's got newer siding. This doesn't look to me like an older type of house. It looks like a newer type of house. So I can agree that, yeah, this was probably actually built in 97. So let's say I come down to just these three good comps here that I feel like are the best, um, I guess, in terms of maybe four. That's 2-1. So that's good that, hey, if a 2-1 sold for 225, we should be able to get more for this 1700. So that is a helpful comp, even though it's only a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. So I would say that this property or subject property is probably, and let me take off these thumbs up here. Add a thumbs up there. So I would say that this property, we're probably looking at somewhere between 225 and 285. So if I was to estimate, in between, halfway in between, and I'm kind of being like, um, I guess a little conservative. I'm not saying, hey, it's worth 285. I'm saying, hey, it's worth half between the highest and the lowest that I have here because these are fairly close in the amounts. They're not extremely far. It's not like I got one that's 100,000, one that's 300,000, whatever. So they're about 50,000 apart. So I would say, somewhere around 250,000, 255 is probably a fair ARV for this property. Um, any Derek, what do you think on that? Are you shaking your head right now? You think I sound crazy?
Actually, no. You making a bunch of sense, but I'm chewing on some dinner again.
All right, so Judd, what's your take on this one? You think that this is good stuff? Are you you learning?
I actually do, yeah.
So what is the seller asking for this property?
Let me take, this is for 113. 113. He's asking 328.
He's asking for 328,000.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you what the seller is seeing right now. Seller is seeing these houses built in 1996 selling for 460,000 that are 6-bedroom, 2-bath. They're probably not anywhere close to comparable. Did the seller sound like he was not really trying to sell the property, but he would take, some insane offer if somebody asked him? Uh, did he build on to,
For this one, I have not able to talk to this person yet. I've been trying to call him, but he's not answering the call.
okay, and he's asking 300 and something thousand?
828, yes.
Yeah, so essentially, man, and this is what I'm getting at. And I don't know, Abby, I don't know if you do this or not, but the way that I do it is I don't do pre-research on this. I actually will reach out to the seller with my notes in front of me, and I will go through the notes of the call from the previous person. And I will say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm calling about the property on whatever street. Did I catch you at a bad time? No. Okay, great. I have some notes here. I just want to go over these with you to make sure that I'm not asking you the same questions that we already asked you. So, it says here that the property has been completely renovated, that you got new this, you got new that. Let's see what else. It says that da da da, and people like that because they know that you are listening, you are paying attention when you are asking those questions, you are taking notes. It makes them feel good because now they know when they talk to you, you're going to take notes, you're going to listen to what they say, you're not going to ask them the same questions over and over again. So I do that before I do research. There is a due diligence stage for a reason. We need to first try and make contact, first go over the notes and get acquainted with the seller by building a little bit of rapport, by going over the notes we already have. Then we start asking some questions to finish the notes, to add to the notes whatever questions we did not get answered. Then we can go into, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of due diligence, a little bit of research on the property. Then I'll call you back. Boom. Now that you've had the conversation with them, now that you've reviewed the notes, now that you're acquainted with the seller, you're going to do your comps. After that, then you can go back and make your offer whenever you get done with your comps and stuff. Okay. That's the order that you want to do it in. If you go looking at all of the notes, trying to pre-prep yourself before the call and doing the comps and doing this and that and being ready to make an offer on the first call, it's just, in my opinion, it's a waste of your time. Why? Did you move on to the next call? Are you going to remember all of those things about the seller that you did not get a hold of? Probably not. Maybe if you do it 5 or 10 times, you might say, oh, yeah, I remember most of the stuff about this property. But most of the time, it's better to just take the time to go through the notes with the seller one by one, and ask them to, hey, I just want to read off my notes here. Let me know if I got anything wrong so that I can make sure that everything is correct. Boom. Then I want to ask you some questions. Okay, boom. Now we're just kind of going through the call. We're getting to a point where now at the end we start talking about the price. Okay, what did you say you were looking to get again? Okay, and I don't like to tell them what they said they were looking to get, because what happens a lot of times is when you're actually calling them and they're talking to somebody instead of the text messaging, they might lower their price. They might say, well, I'm looking for this, but I could sell it for this. So they might give you a lower price when you come back around and ask that question again. Usually when I'm on the call with them, even after um there was text messages, they told us a price. Abby got on the phone with them, they told her a price. She might have negotiated the price down. Guess what? When I call the seller, I typically do not even, unless it says something like he won't take less than X. And it says it like 3 or 4 times in the conversation, because sometimes people say that. I might mention that price. It says here that you won't take less than X. Are you really set on that price? Or it says here that I might bring it up if that's the case, but otherwise, I typically will just ask them how much they were looking to get for it anyway to see if it's changed. Because if it's changed for my benefit and it's lower, I don't even mention that we had their price in the notes. If it's changed for their benefit and they're asking for more, then I'm gonna say, hey, wait a second. I see here in my notes that you were asking for X. Did you do some renovations or something? You jumped up in the price there. Did you do some renovations to it? They might say, well, no, I really don't want to sell it. But I mean, if you're thinking about buying it, like I'm gonna, whatever. So anyways, I say all that to say, don't waste your time trying to like pre-prep for that initial call and do comps and all this other stuff. Go get the call, build some rapport by talking to them about the notes, ask the remaining questions so you get everything that you need to try and make a good decision on what the comps will be and what you need to pay for the property, and determining that by your condition of the property to find out like, okay, what amount of rehab is needed here. Is it a minimum rehab, low rehab, medium rehab, halfway, or is it high rehab, lots of work needed, that sort of thing. It may be a good idea for Derek and I to make you guys like a little cheat sheet that kind of gives you like, how much things will cost, so that you can get a general idea of, okay, roundabout how much rehab are we looking to put into this thing here, if we were to fix this up, that way you can get a good idea of, okay, where would I really need to be on an offer if I know that it needs this much work. So
That sounds great, Josh. We could use that.
okay. Yeah, I just don't want to make it too complicated for you guys where you're taking too much. The main, let me tell you this, the main purpose of you guys talking to them first is not really to have to have this negotiated to where we're putting it in our contract. And Derek is probably like, what do you mean? I think that the best use for you guys, because you're kind of like, I guess, the middleman, like the first person is the introduction. They're just touching base. Do you have an interest to sell? Ask a couple questions. Okay, great. You guys are getting to the nitty gritty on the details. You're trying to get a little bit more information on why they're trying to sell, trying to get a little bit more information on how long they want to sell, how long until they be willing to sell it. You're trying to get a little bit more information on everything so that you can kind of package that up. And then you're trying to see what their flexibility is on price. It's not really your job is not necessarily to get the final number of what they're trying to get for their house. That's our job because we're in the real estate business. We're experts at negotiating people on prices. You guys are not, and not no offense, Abby. I know you've been doing this a while, but you're not an expert at real estate and at negotiating deals with people. That's
I
something
couldn't
that we
agree
have to
more.
do. You're good at what you do, and you do a good job of offering people less and getting the numbers down to where now when I talk to them, they're already warmed up to potentially a lower offer. Okay. So the purpose, don't think that you need all of these, um, don't think that you need all of these different details in order to make the best offer and all this other stuff. No, your purpose is to try and gather as much information as you can, button it up nice for us so that we have all of the details we possibly can before we get on a call with them. And then you are to try and get them to come down on price to at least somewhere in the range of where it might be reasonable, which could be a big range depending on how good of a job we're doing with comps. But once that happens, we still go back and we're going to check over what you did and we're going to check and see if we can do it. And if we think that it's too high or we think the price still doesn't work, then we can turn around and kind of go back to the drawing board with the seller on the price and hey, I think that we're a little bit off here. whatever the case might be, and we can swoop in and do the final negotiations where we can make it to where it becomes a deal that will work for us. So don't think that you have to overanalyze and you're going to make an offer that's just going to be horrible and we're not going to be able to do anything with it because you made a bad offer. No, we can come back from that. We already got in contact with the seller. We already got details on the property. If you end up making a bad offer, we can always bounce back from that. Hey, we were looking at some other numbers. We kind of messed up, whatever the case is. You know, here's really where we need to be in order to make this work for us. So don't think that, and I'm not saying don't try. You definitely want to try, but don't think that you making a bad offer, or not being prepared for the call with the seller, or whatever, is the end of the world. And also don't waste a lot of time before you get on the phone with somebody because if we were texting back and forth with somebody and they were talking and they were interested in selling and now all of a sudden they ghosted us and they're not answering your calls, they're not answering your text messages, then you really don't want to be wasting time on comping their property and pre-reading their details before the call because you're just wasting time. You're not getting anywhere with that seller until they answer that phone. When they answer that phone, you can review the details, ask the questions you need to, then hang up the phone with them, tell them you call them back, then do your comps, your research on the property. If you need help, let us know. Maybe send the seller a text. Hey, I need to escalate this to, my boss to see what his thoughts are because I'm having a hard time finding comparables in the area. That shows that number one, you care enough to try and work hard to make the deal, to get a solution, get an offer out to them. And two, that you care enough to let them know, hey, I'm not going to be able to call you back right now because I need some help. That it's okay to do that, but you just want to make sure that you're spending your time trying to get on the phone with the people who will get on the phone with you. They really want to sell their house. Most of the time, they will at some point pick up the phone. If they don't really care, a lot of times they will not even care about the phone. So, I'm not saying don't call the people that aren't answering. I'm just saying don't spend time researching and everything else ahead of time because then you're doing 10 times the work and getting one time the results, where you could be getting way more results if you just spent your time calling through all of them. And when somebody picks up the phone, then you take the time to do your research on that one.
That is noted, Josh. Thank you.
All right. On that
Well,
note, I think that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, anything else?
None so far. Can you please send me the recording for this video?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, me too, Josh, because the first
I
one that
can
you
look back.
did, the multi-family, we are kind of overwhelmed on that one, so we need to like recap. I mean, to um watch again the recording.
no problem at all.
Okay.
All right, and Judd, me and you probably need to do a Zoom call